Hello and welcome to Just Jets, episode number 231. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary. I'll be hanging out with you for another episode. I am pumped up because training camp is here for the New York Jets, and we're going to talk about a couple of the big storylines so far. The first practice is later today, so make sure to go to the channel and get your coverage for New York Jets football there. But for now, we're going to talk about, again, stories that are out, like the Haason Reddick contract offer that was leaked out, training camp opening today, and naturally your voicemails. Reminder, it is now football season. Talking Jets is back. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode of last night. But if you haven't picked up your tickets, make sure to get your ticket to Jet Broncos. We are very excited for that game in week 4. All-inclusive ticket includes the Tailgate Joe tailgate before the game. You get to hang out there. We go in. We're sitting up in the 300 level. I believe 312 is the section that we are sitting in. Really nice seats up around like the 40-yard line, so it's close to midfield, and then you get on the field after the game. All-inclusive ticket, make sure to pick it up. Or if you just want to do the tailgate or only ticket option, you could do that too. All right, let's get into this one. So, according to Connor Hughes, the Jets made Haason Reddick a contract offer before the trade from Philadelphia. So that was a story that we got yesterday. It would have been a raise from the $14.5 million that he was scheduled to make this year. Apparently, Haason Reddick declined the offer, and the Jets said that, well, if you want to get to that $25 to $28 million a year AAV, which, boy, is that high, they need to see him perform first. In the meantime, the Jets would adjust his current deal, convert non-guaranteed to guarantees, incentives. Okay, that much I really like. And apparently there's more here to this, so give me a second. Reddick told the Jets that he was on board with this. He would show up for the offseason program, minicamp, training camp, the whole thing, if he performed well early in the season, leading to an extension similar to JFM in 2021. Reddick, unfortunately, then skips OTAs, minicamp, and training camp, and the Jets are not willing to negotiate anything until he shows up. The Jets don't know when he's going to be in. So that's essentially the story. If you missed it yesterday, that's what Connor Hughes was reporting. We haven't, as of now, yet seen Haason Reddick's side, and Reddick could show up at any point in time and negotiate, but this is kind of where I feel like it's the best case for the Jets. Redo the deal for this year, get him his guaranteed money, get him a bump, add some incentives in there, and then for me, what loses me is an offer at $25 to $28 million over, let's call it 3 or 4 years on top of this one already. If they wanted to redo this year and tack on an additional one, again, that is something that I've expressed that I'm comfortable doing because it's fitting with this Aaron Rodgers 2-year window that you likely have in 24 and 2025. But anything beyond that, like, do you want to get yourself involved in a 32 or 33-year-old Haason Reddick? I don't think you have to do that. I don't. A 2-year deal with an AAV around $25 million is where I'm hoping this ends up. 28 for 3+ years is not where I'd like to see this end up, nor do I think it really is going to end up there. My guess is within a few weeks, we get a reworked deal for this year, and that's it. I was debating on whether it was going to be this year and next year, but I think they redo it for this year, and then they sell them on like, hey, if you're balling out, we're going to give you a nice big fat extension, or you're going to go to the market and get one last final payday. But I don't think the Jets should be so quick to jump to be like, oh yeah, you want to get $28 million a year? Here's 4 by 28 or 3 by 28. That's not the route that I would like to see them go. Again, it makes it a little bit of a head scratcher, like how there was this disconnect between the two sides, from the Jets and Haason Reddick. So like, it's a lot of pointing the finger and he said, she said kind of a thing. So we're not going to really know the answer, nor do I ever think we actually find out the answer, but I get it. I get the frustration for those who are like, man, like this starts getting into like the 18 plus $1 million a year. Like, wouldn't you have rather kept Bryce Huff? Or, I've seen people just go as far as saying that trade him or cut him. No, the Jets don't do that. The Jets need him. They need 3 legitimate edge rushers in here in this system. You can't be rocking with just 2 edges, which that's what it would be with Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald. They need to be probably, like I said, like 3, closer to 4 deep. They had that, but now, you move off Bryce Huff, you move off John Franklin Myers, you bring in Haason Reddick, and I'm good with Reddick, Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson, but suddenly Haason Reddick walks out the door and you have Jermaine, who's really good, Will McDonald, who you're hoping is going to be good, and then after that, Michael Clemens and some UDFAs. Hopefully the UDFAs come in and pop, but that's asking a lot out of a unit and a group that's vital for this defense. You need to have a good pass rush, specifically on the edge, and Reddick is one of their better pass rushers. So don't do that. I'm not going to say like cut them. They're going to be a top 5 defense with or without. No, they need someone to play that role. I just want to see the 2 sides come together on an agreement that, again, that makes sense for both teams. Like, I don't think the Jets need to go, screw you, Haason. We're going to keep it the non-guaranteed, and we're not going to do any incentives, this or that. And from Haason's side, I don't think he needs to hold the Jets over the barrel and be like, give me a 4-year, $100 million contract or I'm not playing. Like, I think there's a world where they're able to figure this out. And what's strange is the reporting structure from earlier in the day, yesterday, was Ian Rappaport's tweet where he mentioned, like, if they rework his deal for this year, that likely gets him in the building. So it's almost a what are we waiting for at this point. And again, I really hope that it gets there. I really do. I hope it gets there because again, like I said, they need him, but it's not a lock that this works out long term. You need him for this year and next year. Beyond that, do you want to be paying Haason Reddick in 2026? I don't think so. 24 and 25, yeah, I'm good with that. 26 and beyond, not so much. So that's the Jets side of things. Again, we'll see if we ever get any info on anything else from Haason's side of the conversation. And then what I wanted to get into next in the second part here in the open before we get into your voicemails is the Jets are having their first practice today. Maybe while you're listening to this. I don't know when you're listening to this. I put it out at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, and you could be listening to it right away, or maybe you waited and the Jets are practicing right now. But that brings a smile to my face because it was a long off season, long winter, spring into summer. It's only 17 regular season games, and it goes very, very quickly, but it was so weird last year, right? Like Aaron Rodgers says that his intention's to play for the Jets, and then there was this long drawn out thing before he's actually traded for, and then you get the OTA and minicamp videos last year. We get Hard Knocks and training camp, and then week 1, it's all goes away before we even blink. The Jets hang around and are relatively, relevant until the last couple of games of the season, but you basically, you knew that they didn't have that same ceiling. I was still hoping and rooting that they would end their playoff drought. And, when they were sitting at 4-3 on a 3-game win streak, you're like, all right, they're looking pretty good here. And then it kind of went off the rails, and then they fought at the end, but you know how it goes. It was frustrating. And then from pretty much late December on, you're waiting for, all right, let's get it next year. And sure, there's free agency in the draft, and that really gets you through. And then there's mini camps into OTAs in June, but we just got out of the quietest part of the NFL season. It's dead from like mid-June to now, but we finally made it. It is 2024. It's no longer the off season. It is the season, and hopefully it remains the season through early February. That's what my hope is for this Jets football team. And I just want you at home and everyone to to enjoy this. And that's what I'm really trying to tell myself right now is enjoy every minute of this, because you don't know. Last year proved it. You don't know how long it's going to last. It could be 4 plays. You got 4 plays last year of Aaron Rodgers. And, this year there are still very high expectations for this team. They're a very, very good roster. They need guys to be healthy, obviously, but I think they did a better job of, rounding out the offensive line, having more depth there. And I think they put themselves in a better spot with the offensive line and backup quarterback, because that's what really derailed them last year. Sure, there are many losing Rodgers is going to be the first domino to fall, but the injuries on the offensive line, the poor play on the offensive line, the poor play at quarterback, those to me were the biggest factors for why the Jets weren't winning football games. They had an elite level defense last year. They lost numerous games where they held teams to under 20 points and found a way to lose. It's not fair to a defense. If a defense especially the modern NFL, it was impressive when the 2009 Jets were doing it. But when you're doing it in 2024 or then 2023, you're holding teams to 20 points. Atlanta, New England, you go right down the line. There was the Vegas game. There's another example of that. That's 3 games on their schedule last year that they held opponents to under 20 points and lost. That doesn't happen regularly, but it happened to the Jets a lot last year. So, they have a chance to be really, really freaking good. A functional NFL. We're so beat up as Jet fans that we would sign ourselves up to just seeing a league average offense. What does that look like? Jets haven't had a league average offense since 2015. That's almost 10 years ago now. And before that, you got to go back to 2009, 2010, maybe even into 2011. And they had some issues still. They were great running the football, but they had turnover problems with Mark Sanchez. And in 2008 with Favre, same thing. They got hot on offense at first and looked like gangbusters. They were going all over the place, and then Favre fell apart at the end. And then before that, maybe first year Chad in 2002 or even 2004, Chad Pennington and the Jets. They were okay offensively, but they weren't some juggernaut. It's a long time. The Jets haven't had someone a quarterback reach 20 plus touchdown passes. 20 plus touchdown passes in 8 years. 9 years. 2015. We're in 2024 now. If Rodgers goes out there and throws for, let's even go on the conservative side, say 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, Jet fans are going to be thrilled because we don't know what that's like. It doesn't happen every year for the Jets. We're used to seeing your quarterback throw for 2,200 yards and 11 touchdowns and 15 picks in half a season. It's going to be different this year. I think the ceiling of this team is very high. I also think the floor for this team is relatively high than in years gone by because of their contingency plans on the offensive line and at backup quarterback. So they should have a winning record. They should end the playoff drought. And again, that's not, they can't be 9-8, sneak in and get bounced right away. That's not a big enough success for this team. The expectations are higher than that. But I'm excited because I think we're going to finally get a team here in 2024 that's worth talking about every week. That is an unmitigated disaster every single week. That's winning, hopefully, 10, 11, 12 football games this year. Maybe more. I hope more, but I'm going to go somewhere between that 10 to 12 range is where they end up. And that'd be a lot of fun. So enjoy it. That's my message to you. First practice today. Enjoy it, because I know I certainly will be. Let's go into your voicemails, guys. We're going to get us started with Max in New Jersey. Wants to talk about the Brandon Ayuk rumors.
Max Toys from Homely, New Jersey, and I want to talk about Brandon Ayuk. So yesterday, was reported on like a sports network that Brandon Ayuk requested a trade from the Niners. I think the Jets 100% have to sign Brandon Ayuk, and here's my 3 reasons. So my first reason I want the Jets to sign Brandon Ayuk is he's a sole wide receiver. And look, we have Garrett Wilson and we have Mike Williams, but Mike Williams is one of the most often injured wide receivers in the NFL. I think Mike Williams is just injured, and he's going to be on a stat count because he's always injured. And Brandon Ayuk, and yes, we have Garrett Wilson, he's a star wide receiver. But if we have Brandon Ayuk, I mean, he is a superstar level wide receiver. I mean, on the Niners, Brandon Ayuk is one of the most important wide receivers. And the Niners lose Brandon Ayuk, what other weapons they have? Ricky Pearsall, like, is not proven. So I want the Jets to get Brandon Ayuk. The second reason, Brandon Ayuk is he's only 26 years old.
There we go.
Which is younger than the Devontae Adams.
Well,
Devontae Adams is 31 years old, and you have a younger wide receiver for cheaper price. And look, I understand he wants a big payday, but he deserves it. I mean, he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He wants like a Monron St. Brown money, and he deserves that money because he's one of the top receivers in the NFL. Third reason, I think he can fit into our offense. Look, I understand we have 2 bona fide good wide receivers, but Mike Williams is injured. If we have Brandon Ayuk on the outside, he'd be a great wide receiver, paralleling Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams. I mean, imagine that 3. That would be like the best wide receiver core in the NFL. What's your thoughts on this? And go Jets.
It would be awesome, but like if you're gonna trade, you got to trade for him first. You can't sign Brandon Ayuk, so you got to give up draft assets, and it's gonna cost you significantly more in a trade for Ayuk because he's younger and in his prime than it would for a Devontae Adams, who, as you noted, is 31 years old. But the contract situations for both those guys are going to be very, very different. For Devontae Adams, you're looking at a spot now where he already made his big money deal. His cap hit is $25 million this year, but in 25 and 26, it's 44 and 44. Now, granted, that's on the team that's for him on the Raiders. He's not playing with the Raiders on that hit, but his deal would have to get reworked. Obviously, we saw it happen with Aaron Rodgers last year. He reworked his deal with the New York Jets. But for Adams, I don't think it's going to be as much of a long-term investment. It's more of that short-term investment. And he's not going to be on the cap for likely as much as what Ayuk is going to end up getting. If you sign Ayuk, that makes it significantly harder to keep Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, because those guys are going to be due new contracts very, very soon. And with Adams here, you still have, let's say if Adams here for a year or 2 at the most, you still have all your guys on their rookie deals at that point, where that's not going to be the case with Ayuk because he would be making the big money at the same time as Sauce and Garrett and Breece and all those guys. So I love the player. I love Brandon. I'm not here to tell you that I don't think Ayuk on this team wouldn't be awesome. It would. It would be. But I don't know if they can make the financials work. And I think that's going to be the holdup on that. Let's go to Constantine. Constantine, haven't heard from you in a while. Welcome back.
Hey, Matty, Constantine from PA. I guess it's the off season for me, too. We haven't talked in a while. But listen, man, I just wanted to kind of chime in, let you know how I'm feeling about this off season going into the start of a new season. I think the Jets are on the right path this time. There's no hard knocks, no distractions, no we're going to definitely win a Super Bowl prediction flowing in the air. I think it's just a matter of putting this team together the way it should be put together. I'm noticing that there's a couple of big names in free agency as far as, for example, Devontae Adams, the 49ers got a couple of guys that seem a little disgruntled. So hopefully hopefully they can hit a market where we can acquire them. But if we don't acquire them, I'm pretty confident with what we currently have. I mean, our defense is going to be hands down one of the best in the NFL. And if our offense could keep up, there's no telling where we can go. I'm not going to go there, though. I'm not going to go and crown us the off-season champions like we have been for the last 50-some-odd years. But where I'm going to go is that I'm going to say that we're going to continue to build, and hopefully, we got a big test coming up in week 1 against the 49ers.
Yep.
Now, we win that game, and we're definitely heading towards the right direction as far as where our season could end up. But I hope you're doing well. I hope all my buddy Jet fans out there are getting excited like I am. Like I said, it's just a matter of just being humble and taking the situation for what it is. I want Aaron Rodgers to be healthy. He seems pretty focused. He seems in excellent shape. I don't know if you've noticed, but I know I have. He's in phenomenal shape, so that's really a good sign. And I hope we could bring a winner to New York. It's been a long, long time. But the bottom line also is that we just got to be patient. We can't get too excited about it. Like I said, week 1 against the 49ers will be a huge test for us. And I think we'll just take it from there. But anyway, I wish nothing but the best to you, your family, and all my Jet fan brethren out there. We'll be calling sooner, especially now with the season just around the corner, so get used to me again.
Love that.
But as always, let's go Jets, man. Let's do it. Let's have a good year.
I love
All right, man. Take care.
Sorry to cut you off there at the end, Constantine, but I was going to say I love that energy. It's okay to be excited about this Jets team and say, hey, they have a chance to do some really special things. I'm not going out there though saying the Jets are going to win every single game, they're better than you, and like doing the shtick, right? That's not me, and that's not what I'm going to do, and I think that's what you were kind of saying there. But Rodgers is in great shape. I'm confident that if he's out there on the field, that he's going to have a good season for the Jets. And they're set up to do damage because of how good their defense is. If their offense is just good, they could be a very dangerous team. The problem was last year their offense was not just bad, like almost historically bad. And they found a way to win 7 games with that historically bad offense. Not satisfied with that 7 games. I was very frustrated with those 7 games. And I blame the Jets for a lot of what went wrong last year, but the reality is that they put themselves in a better spot for this year, which is a good thing. Not only is that a good thing, it's a great thing. So Constantine, welcome back. I'm glad that you're back, and a lot of fans are getting back in the mix now. PG calls in every week. PG wants to talk about Quincy Williams getting snubbed. All right, let's do it.
Hello, Matt O'Leary. PG from Long Island here.
How are you?
First thing I want to say is shout out to you for last week's episode pointing out that Aaron Rodgers is not a selfish person. He gave up $35 million to become a Jet. That is a lot of money. You just bought a new house, even here on Long Island. I bet it didn't cost anywhere close to that.
No.
Unless you bought a, beachfront on the Hamptons, which is so good for you. But even that would not probably cost $35 million. Second thing is more of a question. So there seems to be such a disparity in how to evaluate plays in the NFL, and you see that in the draft. But Quincy Williams was voted a first-team All-Pro, but yet with Jeremy Fowler's rankings or polling of the scouts, execs, and coaches in the NFL, he didn't even make the top 10 of linebackers. How does that happen? I mean, the AP, I guess, votes for the Pro Bowl, but even that, I mean, and then another example is, last year's running back that we got from Minnesota. He was several of your colleagues said that, why are we taking him on? And, they looked at the film. They said he really doesn't have much left in the tank. Yet the Jets signed him to $7 million. So, what were they seeing different than like Mania or Blewett, whatever? And they turned out to be correct. So, you have a Quincy Williams, Pro Bowler, not even in the top 10. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you can explain to me why, this, disparity. Maybe it's just hard. Maybe they have different ways of looking at the players. But it doesn't seem to make sense. Maybe some of these guys just don't put in the work, or maybe they just don't know what they're talking about. But anyway, Matt O'Leary, I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And as always, go Jets.
Thank you so much, as always, for the call. I agree with you. I think Quincy got snubbed. There was very, very strange that he was ranked where he was on that list, or not ranked, I guess. I think he flew under the radar a little bit, but the Jets are going to get a lot of recognition this year, in my opinion, because of where they're going to be playing in a lot of primetime games, and hopefully a very good team, and maybe winning some playoff games, fingers crossed. And if that's the case, then I think more people are going to know who Quincy Williams is. And in the first half of the season, he was by far the Jets' best player. And in the second half, I think I'd give that nod to Breece Hall. But moral of the story, this guy should have been included on that list. And you bring up a good example with Dalvin Cook. And I think sometimes, not always, but sometimes I think, I said it with fans, but it's true also with, people in the league. I think the name recognition factor and what someone has done in the past holds more weight for some guys than others. If you watched the tape or looked at the underlying numbers from Dalvin Cook in his final season in Minnesota, yes, he still went over. I'll pull up the exact numbers, but he went for over 1,000 yards that year. He did 1,108 touchdowns. So you looked on the surface. If you only looked at, 1,173 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4.4 yards per carry, this guy probably was pretty good, right? And then you dig a little bit deeper and you look at his yards above expected and watch how he ran, and something looks off. And it was a drop off in yards per game. He went from 89 yards per game to 69. He still got a ton of carries, 264 carries, which is a lot, and put up 1,100. On paper, that box score stat looks good. But once you do a little bit more digging, you realize that there was clearly the beginning of a decline. Now, I just don't think the Jets expected that it would be that quick of a decline. It was really, really bad, unfortunately, for the Jets. He had 214 yards, on 67 carries, 3.2 yards per attempt. Did not score a touchdown. Horrible blocker, too, by the way. Was just an all-around net negative, unfortunately, for the Jets. But, again, that's what it goes back to, in my opinion, at least, is that, a little bit of it is name recognition and what you've done in the league versus what you will do in the league, not as much projecting. Let's close out with our guy, Peter, from the beautiful Hudson Valley.
Hey, man. It's Peter from up in the wet and rainy Hudson Valley, calling in on this Tuesday morning where veterans are reporting after the rookies reported last week. It's that beautiful time of year where football is going to be back for the next 7-8 months. And, of course, we couldn't have training camp start without some type of drama. I mean, yes, it's a pretty nice T-shirt that Aaron Rodgers was wearing with an Egyptian cat on it.
You like that?
I didn't get the significance of it at first, I'll admit it.
Okay.
But I did enjoy yours and other people's comments that it was a big, F you to the media, considering his trip to Egypt. Water under the bridge at this point. Now he's back, and we're ready to go. With one exception, a certain number 7 on the defensive line, still not reporting. Obviously, news has come out that Brian Costello reported that it sounded like at the time of the trade, they had some type of deal that they offered Haason Reddick, and he rejected it. And it seemed like based on that, he was going to probably try and play out with his current deal, or maybe they were going to modify it a little bit to make some or all of it guaranteed. And maybe that'll still happen, but it sounds like the Jets' stance at this point is if he's not going to be there, they're not going to negotiate with him. And that sucks right now. So unless he reports maybe by the end of preseason, before the first week the season starts, and plays out that current deal, or the Band-Aid deal like you've been talking about for this year and next year, I'm not sure how it's going to get done, but I'm remain hopeful. So in the meantime, at least it means more reps for guys like Will McDonald and Michael Clemens trying to come back off last year's disappointment. And, of course, McGregor and Watts, those undrafted free agents that are trying to get some time at edge as well. Also, having seen your video earlier, love that neon sign of your logo right behind you. That really looks good in your new office suite there. And I had one question for you that I wanted to ask, which is an oddball one I've been holding back on for a while. Of the Jets' 90-man roster, they still have two kickers. Greg the Leg, obviously, and Austin Siebert is still on the roster, and he shows up, in some of the videos now and again. And I'm wondering if that's because of the new kickoff rule, and maybe they're saving Greg the Leg as just for field goals. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, because that seems like an odd waste of a roster spot if that's really going to be the case. Maybe it's only for the preseason, but we'll find out soon. And as always, go Jets.
Yeah, thank you as always, Peter. And I'm a huge fan of this sign, and I'll lower, if you're watching on YouTube, the Just Jets graphic because it's blocking it a little bit. But I've had this for a little while, but was saving it until I was going to get in the new place. Now, granted, I didn't know where that new place was going to be at first. I've had this for like a year, but didn't want to put it up because I was like, I know that I'm going to be out of here soon. Or relatively soon, so I didn't want to put it on the wall. But I'm glad that I have it here, and I'm not done with the setup yet. It's not perfect. We're still coming along a little bit. It's a lot to set up a full house. So it's definitely been a blast, though. I will say that. So I appreciate that. Now, the Austin Seibert one is an interesting one because he was with the Jets on September 16th. I'm reading a report. He signed with the Jets practice squad following an injury to the kicker Greg Zuerlein. He was released on the 30th. He went to New Orleans, and then the Jets picked him back up on their practice squad on December 27th, so right at the end of the year. And then he signed a reserve future contract with the Jets in January of 2024. So the Jets have him on the roster right now. My guess is what is going to happen is that he's insurance for Greg the Leg, if God forbid there's an injury. And they're probably going to try to stash him on the practice squad. That's my assumption. I get where you're coming from on the new kickoff rule point there. I think with Thomas Morstead and Greg the Leg, that's more than enough with those two guys where you could be able to figure out some sort of plan there with either one of those two guys. So I think this is just it's going to be not really even a competition, but I was going to say competition, but it's really not a competition. It's Greg Zuerlein's job, and he's just insurance. That's my take on it. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're audio only, make sure to subscribe, leave a rating and a review. That really helps us out a lot. If you're over on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, a comment, share with a friend. I appreciate each and every one of you. We made it, baby. I am Matt O'Leary. I'll catch you next time.